Catholic Josie, what's up? We're back again with another episode of JOLZ4JESUS. Can we believe it's month of August already? You'll probably be seeing this too late, so apologies once again. But for now, I'm still your brother, Dylan Nika.
And I'm your sister Kati.
And I'm Pedro Farash.
And
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Palesa Mabaso.
all right, friends. So again, month of August, and as you can see, the calendar behind me, which I hope is still on your parish wall, we call this month Tireless in
If
August.
not in your house.
Oh, in your house. That's interesting. Is it in your house, Kati? I must confess, even for me, it's the HOD. It's not in my house.
my
Oh, that's
phone.
too much. As it is, you don't stop working. All right, friends. So tireless in the month of August, we typically focus on suffering, the theme of suffering, and a salient theme these days when it comes to suffering for all people, but especially even for young people, which we of course focus on and minister to, is mental health. And we are so excited to have Dr. Mabaso here with us, and we are so excited to see what the Spirit will reveal. All right, so kicking off then, shall we?
Shit.
More detailed introduction. What do we have here? Name, family of origin, occupation, and whatever else comes up.
Okay. So, my name is Palesa Mabaso. Palesa simply means a flower. My mother gave me this name. And I was born and bred in Soweto in a township called Shawela, which is predominantly Tsonga and Venda people, which I'm very grateful for because it contributes to how diverse I am and multilingual. I can speak most languages except for Afrikaans. So so it's pretty cool. I love that. I wouldn't change that about my life. I was born and bred in a Catholic home, went to a Catholic school from grade 0 till matric. I went to St. Matthew's Catholic School in Pimville. And as I said, I matriculated, and then I left Soweto at the age of 19 to go to Cape Town to study medicine in Stellenbosch. So I was there for like 6 years, and then I graduated and I came back home. I worked at Leratong Hospital for my internship. And then after that, I left again. I went to PE and I worked in a psychiatric hospital called Elizabeth Donkin Psychiatric Hospital in Port Elizabeth. Then I came back and then I was unemployed, which was quite hard for a couple of months.
Sure.
Then God came through. I was then employed at Sterfontein Hospital. It's a psych hospital as well. And then just towards the end of that year, I was blessed with an opportunity to get into the registrar program, which basically means that I'm specializing in the field of psychiatry. So did medicine, done with that, and then now in the journey of specializing in psychiatry. So currently I'm in my second year of the registrar program. It's a 4-year program. And currently at the moment, because we rotate every 6 months, we go to different hospitals, mainly in the Johannesburg circuit under vets. I'm at the Ekurhuleni district clinics currently. So that's just in a nutshell, me and my occupation and where I come from.
Lovely stuff. My goodness. I'm still on all the languages except, and I don't blame you with Afrikaans at all. Afrikaans is only easy for those who grew up with it.
I never even learned it in school. I remember I did Afrikaans for like 3 months in grade 3. Then when we came back after the first semester, they said no more Afrikaans. So
there was no need to.
I know a few people who would love that.
I studied Afrikaans in high school and I still can't string a sentence, so it's fine.
Well, I guess that's like me and Zulu. 1 year, grade 5. After that, all gone.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So, something that we love starting with here is the focus on the faith journey. It's just such an important thing to focus on in this day and age, and we find that young people are so touched by story. I think everybody, once again, we're touched by everybody's story. So, if you had to zoom in more on the faith journey per se. So, I mean, you speak about a Catholic upbringing, a Catholic school, but maybe sort of those key figures or key moments in your faith where you really feel it cemented it. And with regards to your personal relationship with God, what do you think were the factors that led it? Or what's the journey, so to speak?
The journey.
Yeah.
So obviously, as you mentioned, the Catholic upbringing, I was fortunate to be, I didn't choose that. I was born into a family like that and I'm quite grateful. Outside of all of that, I've also had the opportunity to get to know God from a personal level. That has nothing to do with where I come from. I have seen Him in my life. I have seen Him, His mercies, His blessings, and some of the most difficult lessons I had to learn as a young person. I can give you which story? I have a lot of stories actually. A lot of stories. One of the first one that stands out is when I was in matric. I knew I wanted to do medicine for like when I was in grade 9, I think.
Wow.
And I did some research and I looked for a mentor and I got one. She's still my mentor till today, literally since
Beautiful.
grade 9. Yeah. Makgotso Moabi. She's amazing. She's amazing. And so when I was in grade 11, I started looking for bursaries to study. I mean, I was so young, I had no idea how expensive fees are. I had absolutely no idea. And looking back, there's absolutely no way that my family would have been able to afford my fees. Especially, I mean, I was in Cape Town, I needed flights, accommodation, all of that. In my matric year, no, grade 11, it was grade 11, I applied, I think it was career-wise at the time, and they called me multiple times, that is. And because I was a teenager, I had such a silly voicemail, guys. It was so horrible. Oh my gosh. And and also I was quite an academic. My phone was usually off. So this other day, randomly, I decided to switch my phone on. Oh my goodness, there were like 3 voice messages from this company. It was a week later. And I was panicking and I was like, I don't think these people want me anymore. Like, there's no way. I mean, my voice note is silly and they've been getting through to voicemails and it's a week later, there's no response. And maybe like an hour after that panic mode with my grandmother, the phone rang and it was the people. And they called me, they said, you know, we've selected you as one of the top students to get funding from us. I could not believe it, guys. Like, I just was like, you know what, God, you have shown yourself once more that you're
Yeah.
present. And if you have decided that this is what I want for my child, it is what it is. That's just one of the stories. There's many others, including the unemployment one. So I don't know if you've got time for that.
No, we're fine.
Don't worry.
And then in addition to that, the end of my internship year at Leratong. So I decided I wanted to do psychiatry when I was, I think, in 4th year of mid school. So the way medicine is structured is you do your MB/CHB and then you can be a general practitioner. So you just do general medicine and then you can decide to go into a specialty field. And for you to get into that, there's some routes that you need to go through. So they need some exposure, experience in that field in particular. So for ComServe, I applied to go to a psych hospital. I think it's in Poch, I forgot the name. And I really wanted to go there because it would give me credits to write my diploma in mental health. So if I don't have the background or the specific time that's required to be in that field, you're not kind of, you know, you don't get the points to write. So towards the end of the year, I'm placed at a random hospital in the Eastern Cape. It has no psychiatry at all. Like, that December was the worst year of my life. I was so miserable. And I thought that, you know what, I've put in so much energy in getting this diploma done and this is what I want. This is the route I want to take. And God, why? You know, I've prayed about this. And here you sent me to a hospital that has like no psychiatry at all. Oh, goodness, Lord, it was hard. And I can't even explain what happened. But all I know is my family and I left on the 2nd of Jan. I was supposed to start, I think the first Monday was like the 3rd or 4th, to the Eastern Cape. I did not know where I was going. I did not know what the plan would be, but I knew that I wanted to do psychiatry and I didn't want to go to that hospital. And I found a way to swap with someone I used to go to school with because her husband was working at that hospital. So we swapped. But the hospitals that we swapped, the one that she had also didn't have psychiatry necessarily. So, but it was in Port Elizabeth instead of rural Eastern Cape. I got to this hospital. HR was down. Nobody knew. They didn't even have our names. It was such a mess. It was horrible. And I'm there with my family. There's no contract. I don't know if I'm going to work. I'm in the Eastern Cape. And then I got a phone call from the clinical manager of Elizabeth Donkin Psychiatric Hospital. And she's like, hi, Palisa. The ComServe doctor that was supposed to come through didn't come through. I don't know, she had to do something else. So there's a space open for you. And that's how I got it. Literally, just like that. And it was the best hospital ever so far that I've ever worked in. Beautiful hospital, beautiful stuff. The teaching was amazing. And I literally lived just in front of the beach. That's how everything changed from like a miserable December to
Sure.
in the best hospital, best, seniors, and living close to the beach. You just open the window there. So
There you go.
And that phone
There's
call was while you were still at that
yeah, I was actually
hospital.
at the mall. No, I was at the mall. So I had left the hospital that I was supposed to go to because HR wasn't there. So I went to the mall to just go grab something to drink and look around. And then as I was walking, I remember I was passing Pick and Pay in PE. I think it's Warmer Park. And she called me and said, please come through tomorrow and sign the contract. So yeah, I've seen God in many ways, guys. Like stories are countless. Yeah.
And I think for me, the question I have is why medicine? Like, what drew you to that field?
I don't know. And the reason I say I don't know is because I'm generally a very ambitious and passionate person. Like, I usually know what I want and what to do. And for the longest time, I actually wanted to do politics. I was so passionate about politics. And then one day in grade 9, I just felt like, nah, man, I feel like I'm called for something else, but I don't know what it is. Like, I really don't know. But I feel like there's this, no, politics is not it. And I decided, I was like, you know what, let me just go to a hospice and just volunteer. Let me see, maybe I could be a doctor. I don't know. Then I did that. So I went to a hospice. It was in, is it Pimville or Dube? I think, yeah, Pimville or Dube in Soweto. And I volunteered there. And then I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is where I feel like I belong. And then I decided that to get through this, I need a mentor. And young as I was, I actually got onto a taxi and I went to Bara. It's my mentor's favorite story. I was in grade 9, yeah. I went to Bara and I was just like, I'm just going to stand and look for someone with a stethoscope and like, hey, how did you get here? And that's exactly what I did. And the journey wasn't easy because I did find people who were quite discouraging. Like, don't do this. It's too difficult. It's not good for girls. You want to get married and have kids. No, don't go this route. And then Mahotso appeared and I was like, hi, my name is Palesa. I want to do medicine. Can you be my mentor? My goodness. And she welcomed me with open arms till today. At my age, she's still very present in my life. So,
Hand of God again. Right
So if
there.
you're looking at her right now, what are you going to tell her?
oh, I love her. Oh, I love her so much. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity, the teaching, the love, the support. Oh my goodness, I could write a novel about that woman. She's so amazing. Like the last time I spoke to her was actually last week. We went like an hour and a half phone call, just catching up. And she's actually, her husband is also a doctor. They have a church that they run. So it's beautiful.
When you talk to her, tell her we love her too.
I will tell her.
Okay. Amazing.
It's been amazing. So that's how it was never the first thing. Politics was the first thing. Then medicine, I kind of fell in love. It was like I feel like it was a calling for me because it was just a switch of a moment. Yeah.
It's amazing how that happens for some people. My wife is an audiologist, and she said it also just it's like she browsed a catalog of Tux came to the school and UJ came to the school, and she said literally it's like a light went on. She saw this, she's like, I want to do this, and now today she's like one of the best. Well, I'm probably biased, but
She
for
is the
real,
best.
she's amazing at what she does.
And
Beautiful.
when Palesa was talking about it, I thought that you're going to censor some things about medicine and stuff because the back of my mind was going like, you're a doctor in a way. So you should have fixed something, but yeah. Anyway.
So, for those who know the name or the word or the profession, psychiatry, what does it entail, and why did you want to branch into that? And how is it different from psychology?
Okay. Thank you for the question, actually, because it's psychology and psychiatry is usually misunderstood. So basically, what psychiatry is, it's in simple terms the study of the mind, right? So when you do medicine, you basically study the whole body, and you're a doctor, right? Plain example I could use is when you look at the heart. So a doctor that works with the physiology of the heart is a cardiologist. The one that does the surgery and cuts out stuff is a cardiothoracic surgeon. So with an organ, there's almost like, we'll say, two different doctors working with the same organ, but all of us have to go through the same, undergrad study. So in psychiatry, we're looking at the brain. So in the brain, we're looking at a neurologist who is a doctor who works with the physiology of the brain. We've got neurosurgeons, which are actually surgeons of the brain. Then we've got psychiatrists that work with the mind. So with psychiatry, we don't have a physical organ that you can hold. With cardiology, you know where the heart is. With pulmonology, you know where the lungs are. I can't pick out and say, that's my organ. So it's basically the mind in the brain. So that's what a psychiatrist is. And the difference between psychiatry and psychology is therapy. It's a therapist, so they work with psychosocial issues, helping you manage certain stresses. I'm obviously not in the field, so I can't speak much about them. Okay. But yeah, they're therapists. And then with psychiatrists, we are doctors of the mind. So we do the investigations, the scans, the pathology, the management, the treatment. So for example, if you are depressed, you'd have to see both of us, the psychiatrist and the psychologist. So psychiatry from a medical point. So I'm managing the hormone imbalance with biomedication. Okay. Psychology is more therapy and simple things. Doctors are the ones that can prescribe. Psychologists not so much. So the medication would have to come from me, type of thing. So that's where the difference is. Yeah.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah.
I hope it's clear. It's usually
It
quite,
is
usually quite a fine line. Yeah,
It is clear.
And in your because now, doctor, tell us. in your profession now, as you said, you are specializing, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you seen patients? And what would you say is the prevalence of young people that you have had to treat medically? And what would be the common sicknesses, if I may put it that way, in terms of young people?
There's a fair amount of young people that come to see us in the hospital and in the clinics. And also, just to maybe let me make this or paint a picture so it's clearer. With psychiatry, like I said, that it's like the doctor of the mind, the doctor of the psyche. It's a condition that a lot of the times when people are not well psychiatrically, they themselves are not even aware. So it's usually somebody else who's bringing the patient in. Not all the time, there are patients that bring themselves in, but in most cases, it's usually the community, the family seeing this abnormal behavior or isolation, all those type of things, and then they bring the patients to us. And by saying that, I want to emphasize the fact that there's also a number of young people that are missed that could actually benefit a lot from our services. Given that, they still come, they do come, young people do come. What we see the most, especially in the clinics, and I'll refer to that because compared to the hospital, the clinic has a higher turnover because it's an outpatient. There's patients, they come, they go, they come, they go. It's not like a bedded facility. On average, like my clinics, I'd see about 20 to 25 patients a day. And the young people that I've seen that present usually ones with depression. It's usually a depressive episode. Actually, the most common one actually is substances. So it's related, it's substance-related psychosis or mood disorder. And then it's your depression. And with females, a lot of the times it's change in behavior, so psychosis or depression postpartum. So just after they've given birth. So those are what we see usually. And your known bipolars or the ones that we start diagnosing at the first presentation around that age. But mainly our biggest issue right now in South Africa is substances. So I see a lot of SIPDs, like substance-induced psychotic disorders. So yeah, and it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What does that look like typically? Are we talking into something like your bipolar? Because I know a story as such, but typically what does that look like in terms of change of behavior rooted in substance? Yeah.
So with substances, it depends what it can cause. It can cause a number of things. It can cause the mood root. So when we look at psychiatry, there's a lot of illnesses under that. So not everyone who's a psych patient is bipolar or that. So there's psychotic disorders where it's basically an alteration in reality. So delusions, hallucinations, disorganized behavior. So that's your psychotic cluster. Then we've got the mood cluster where there's an imbalance in the mood. So we're talking about depression or mania, where they're hyper elevated, impulsive, there's irritability, there's aggression. So depending on the substance that you took, but because we don't know what these young people are taking, they're literally mixing everything from ARVs to red poison to all of this. They take these substances, and in most cases we see psychosis. So they present with hallucinations, delusions, aggressive behavior, they start acting strange, they stop eating or they don't sleep, and they start hearing voices. A lot of the times it's usually around paranoid and persecutory delusions where they think people are after them, the community wants to kill them. And it's quite dangerous because if it's not treated properly, depending on the psychosis, somebody could actually get injured. If someone is hearing voices that you want to kill them, they'll protect themselves by trying to attack you first. You see, so it's those type of issues that we see. So that's generally how it looks like, just mostly psychosis. I have seen mood-related substance disorders when I was actually at Barra. It was mostly like your bipolar picture, but because of the substances, not necessarily because it's like primary,
Yeah.
secondary to the substances. Yeah.
I find that so fascinating. So when we say because of the substance, is it literally there was no underlying or anything at work already there and the substances triggered it? Is some of it really just it started with that substance?
Yeah, it's different cases. A lot of the times, substances have a bi-directional relationship with mental illness. So it's a case where, because mainly mental illness is quite genetic. There's a genetic component to that. So you'd be predisposed to the illness just because of your genetics. And sometimes because you have the illness anyway, you are more likely to be influenced into certain things that you wouldn't if you necessarily didn't have mental illness. So we find people who have the mental illness anyway and predisposed to, or like exposed to substances, and then they start smoking this cannabis, crystal, all of this. So then they come to the clinic and we see them for the first time. At that point, we may not know which one came first, the bi-directional relationship that I'm talking about. And then sometimes it's just purely substances. When you look at the history in the family, nobody has a mental illness. There's nothing that poses you to be at risk for a mental illness if you just don't smoke the crystal. So it's a lot of issues. It could be both. It could be individual. Sometimes mental illness is actually because of a medical condition, not necessarily the substances. Or you could just have a medical condition that affects, the hormones and the neurotransmitters, and then you get a mental illness.
And
So there's lots
then
of causes, yeah.
traumatizing things, or trauma, or maybe we can even add depression. Oh, don't depress me. Like depression and trauma. How does it lead, like upgrade from depression to any psychotic or psychiatric?
Okay, so we are all wired differently, and there's a lot of factors that contribute to that: genetics, where we come from, the support system around us. There's also a study called epigenetics, where what it basically means is the environment is kind of altering the gene in one person. So there's a lot of factors. For starters, that's the baseline, and then there's the trauma. So that is the incident that occurs that most of the time none of us have any control over, and because of our baseline, we manage that differently. So you and I could experience the same thing and we could, react differently. So if there's already a predisposed or factors to lead you to getting a mental illness, that trauma could actually trigger an episode. So remember I told you that with psychiatry, there's different clusters. There's anxiety, there's mood, there's psychosis, there's personality, there's a whole lot of things. Depression ends up into psychotic.
Yes.
So with depression, if it's very severe, right? If it's like severe depression that's either not managed, that's been going on for a long time, it can actually have psychotic features where you're so depressed that you start hearing voices and you start believing things that aren't there. So you can have that. They can coexist. You could have a mood disorder and a psychotic disorder, depending on what the diagnosis is. In bipolar as well, it's a mood disorder, but it can also have psychotic features where you're so manic that you actually start hearing voices or being delusional. So you can have both.
Sure. When I was asked to do, to my surprise, but it was in a faith context, a little presentation on also young people and mental health. And so naturally you go to Google, etc., etc. But we often get told, don't trust Dr. Google.
Yes, not always.
I hear that.
Yeah.
So the one thing, and I suppose this bridges into the next question, kind of about getting practical, or the things we want young people to at least be aware of. When we talk about those zones, you're in the green, you're in the orange, you're in the red. How how do we help young people navigate that spectrum? We could maybe say, what are some of the signs that you're already in the orange?
That you need help.
What are signs that you flat out in the red, etc., or something like that? Yeah.
So I always advocate for awareness. It's always the first thing, because, like I said, there's a lot of people walking around with mental health related concerns or illnesses, and they don't know where to go. Some of them don't even know that it's a problem. Some of them, the stigma around mental health is a different discussion, but there's a lot of stigma around it as well, which contributes to young people not seeking out for help. So the first thing is awareness. You can't treat what you don't know, and you can't ask for help if you don't know you need help. So that's the first thing. As a society and congregation, that's what we need to work towards. And with the awareness that's out, it's very important for self-awareness as a person, and it's a very important skill to learn, especially when you're young. And when there's self-awareness, there's also a time where you're like, you know what, Balisa, you're not okay. Things like, especially, I'll start maybe with the young people that are working and also studying at the same time. Things like burnout. And burnout is not in your face. It's not going to wake up and say, hi, you burnt out. It's a whole lot of symptoms that just don't make sense. And when you tell people, sometimes it's difficult for them to understand. So it's things like you're feeling tired, you're not motivated, you don't want to go to work, everything is just so draining. Some young people will even express it as, I feel numb, like nothing matters. I do it, I don't do it. You slack at work. You are feeling like, what, it's not worth it. So all those type of things are things that one needs to sit down and say, what, actually, I'm not okay. If I just, how people say your biggest competitor is yourself. So you sit down, you're like, 2 years ago, I used to ace this, and I'm not able to. Something is not okay. So it's a self-awareness with things like burnout, because a lot of young people are burnt out, and older people. Depression, a low mood. There's a normal element of reactions from people. Everybody has a right to be sad, to be happy. It's life, it's normal to be sad, it's normal to be happy, angry, all of that, in relation to whatever the stressor is. But when you look at mental illness, it's above the norm. It's quite excessive, and it's affecting your functioning, it's affecting your life. So when there's certain stresses, I lost my job, that's sad, but I lost my job, I don't want to do anything, I just want to lock myself up, I'm not worth it, I'm useless, I failed at this, I don't have a job, you make a cup of coffee and then you spill it, oh my gosh, I've always known I'm useless. Those type of things are the red flags that, what, this has actually gone above, the norm. Definitely voices. A lot of people, and it's a difficult thing to explain, because one would say, I have conversations internally, I know my own voice. I mean, hey, Balisa, you're late, hurry up, type of thing. But there's voices that are not natural, like a natural conversation in your head. It's somebody who just keeps telling you stuff like, hey, look at that lady, she's talking about you, those type of things. So patients report such symptoms that, I keep hearing voices of a lady that tells me to jump off a bridge. I keep hearing, that's the sad part about mental illness. And we have a lot of those where, people are hearing voices, we call them command hallucinations, where they tell you, you're not worth it, so jump off the bridge. And they do, some people do. Or, what, stab that person, she said this about you, or you don't deserve to be a mother. So all those things, especially postpartum with women. We have baby blues, and people will say, it's normal, you're just a new mom. Yeah, I mean, it's normal. It's an adjustment. There's a new baby. There's a whole life that's, you're in charge of. But there's also emotions that one shouldn't necessarily be feeling postpartum. Things like, you're useless. You weren't supposed to be a mother. You can't take care of this baby. Step the baby, shake the baby. Those type of things. So voices, mood, also change in behavior. Your friends will also pick it up. Hey, you know what? You're not chilling with us anymore. You don't call us often. You are, when you have to go out with your friends, you'd rather make excuses to just stay in. One thing about depression is that it pulls you and it isolates you. And that's the worst position for anyone to be in. So you want to break those barriers. So when you start feeling that I'm not the same person, man, seek for help. And it doesn't mean when you seek for help, because young people are so afraid of seeing a psychiatrist, because it's a thing, they believe I'm not crazy. And it's not about being crazy. There's no such a thing. And sometimes you may come in and it may not necessarily need a doctor. It may be something that psychology can also manage, so therapy, traumas, things like that. So When you also look at anxiety, things like PTSD, where you have nightmares, vivid dreams, reliving the experience, that's, you shouldn't be feeling that. So those are the things that one could look out for. And once you have picked those things up, sometimes the person, actually in most cases, they may not even pick the things up themselves. You as the person close to whoever it is, reach out, take them to the doctor, speak to them, and then let's help them
I
out.
just want to ask, those voices that people keep on hearing and stuff like that, is it natural voices, or is it because some people have been telling them, like maybe when they're growing up, let's say growing up, like you say, when you spill a cup of coffee and then your parents or someone tells you that you are useless or things like that, and that builds up, and then as they grow up, then they start coming up in a certain later age, or is it something that they spontaneously came up
So
at the later age?
there's two parts to that. So there's the psychotic part. Psychosis is just always unnatural. It's abnormal. You shouldn't be hearing a voice that tells you. There's a difference with remembering how your mother used to shout at you, and that's normal. Some, we still have those type of memories. But with psychosis, it's first of all, it's disturbing. It's uncomfortable, and it affects your functioning. So instead of you coming to work and let's sit down and have a podcast about this, the voice is telling you that I hate you. I'm the one that hates you. Balisa is something against you. You're horrible. And it just affects how you function as a person. Now you can't even go ahead with your podcast. Versus, when I grew up, my mom used to shout at me. It's something I wouldn't want to do to my own children. And so when we talk about trauma or exposure when you were younger to certain things like making a mistake and it's a big deal at your home, it kind of contributes to also how you see the world. And we are different, but some people, they're able to manage and be like, that was wrong, so I'm not going to do it. With some people, it actually stays and it becomes an irrational thought. And they're like, my mother used to say I'm useless. I'm useless. So their psychology would play a huge role in sitting down and unpacking certain things. So yeah, psychosis will just purely be psychotic.
I think to build up on what Petra is asking is me and my weird questions. Like on a spiritual level, I know that when it comes to people like Abu Father or exorcists, sometimes they would do these extensive studies like psychology, psychiatry. When do you tell that this is beyond medical and this is now a spiritual battle that I'm dealing with that you recommend to exorcists?
It's a difficult question for me to answer because I actually know it the other way. I've seen patients who said, this is beyond spiritual, this needs medical. I've personally never been in any situation where I was like, this one needs traditional. I've never. In most cases, I actually see patients who have gone through it all. They've been to all different types of traditional healers. They've been to all different types of churches and priests, and it just doesn't go away. I mean, we do have in psychiatry, we call them cultural syndromes. So symptoms that come with ukutwasa. You know how people who go in twasa, they'll tell you that they had a dream to go into the water and former great-great-grandfather fetched me, all those type of things. There's a very thin line between the two. And with the cultural syndromes, it's a situation where even the family, supports that and they've had that. And it's not dysfunctional, man. It's not making it difficult for you to go to work and function with the rest of the society. With psychosis, it is. You find patients where they come in, they're like, you know what, I've got a calling, I see demons and whatnot and whatnot. And when you sit down with the family is purely Christian. They don't know anything about these things. They don't understand where it could have come from, where it stemmed from. And even the way the person is behaving. They've stopped going to school or they've stopped going to work. They stopped eating. They sleep outside. They are doing all these things that are just completely abnormal, which is a psychotic picture in most cases. So yeah, I've never, and I don't even know of any studies or any colleagues that have referred patients to an exorcist or like, it's more them coming actually to us. And then the first 2 months that they're on an antipsychotic, symptoms resolve. It's
I mean, you deal with people who go through the most. How do you take care of your own mental health and well-being?
when I was in internship, well, let's start with medical school. Medical school is quite intense. It's a very stressful environment, very high paced. And I taught myself from an early age to dissociate. And in a healthy way, there's an abnormal way of dissociating. In a healthy way, when I'm at work, I'm at work. And when I leave, I leave. When I'm at home, and I try to calm myself and say, okay, I'm at home. And not to say that I shut everything out. I have a very good supportive system. Like when I get home on my way, like from work to home, I'll be on the phone with my mom and I'll debrief, you know what, I saw this terrible case. I feel horrible about it. She'll comfort me, pray about it, you know, and I try and keep healthy as well. Exercise, you know, friendships, a healthy circle as well. That's how I take care of myself, because if I were to carry all the things I hear, I don't think I'd be standing. It's just horrible. It's very terrible what people are going through out there. So, yeah.
Obviously, I think, again, we talk about many factors, many reasons. What do you think, in your experience so far, or even in your conversations with colleagues, what is one of the really big factors that lead young people into a very unhealthy state of mind, or as we say, into, you know, more grave areas of mental illness? Is it, I don't know, is it rooted in family experience? Is it rooted in what they go through with education, schooling? It's probably multiple, but maybe in your experience, what do you think is like a really big factor?
I have top 3 big factors.
Okay.
1, genetics. 2, substances. And the third one, environment. South Africa is going through a lot. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of inequality. There's a lot of issues. I mean, the unemployment rate as it is right now is just horrible. It's painful to see young graduates who don't have a job. It's horrible. I mean, it plays into your psyche, you know. With genetics, a lot of the patients that I have seen, young people who present with mental illness, when you sit down and have a conversation during your history taking, you find out actually that there's a number of people in the family that have mental health illness. And then outside of the the genetic part, we look at substances. They play a huge role in mental health. Like, I don't think I have enough words to explain how horrible they actually are. There's a lot of young people using drugs, like all different types of drugs, to a point where people are even becoming creative and creating their own drugs. And if you sit down and speak to these young people, they're self-medicating from all the issues that they have, which goes on to my third point, the environment. They are self-medicating from childhood traumas, the rapes, the absent fathers, the separated parents, the abuse, all these type of things. And because life has not always been what it is now, where we see people are more vocal, you know, mental health is advocated for. Back in the days, it was a very silent conversation. So I saw a very, you know, I hope it doesn't bring tears to my eyes. Last week, there's a patient I saw who expressed that she was raped, I think, 20 years ago, and she's never told anyone. I'm the first person to know about it, and the doctor that treated her at that time. And the way she was expressing it, she was in tears. And she's elderly, actually. She's elderly. She wasn't raped as a child. She was raped as an older woman. And she's like, I can't even tell my daughter because she's not going to handle it very well. Like, it's horrible. And you think about it, that people grew up in societies where they weren't freely able to talk, because whatever you say, it's either you're going to get punished for it, or they're not going to believe you, whatever else that might happen. So it's these issues, all of them together, play a role in one's mental health. You know, we look at the physical body, there's always adverts about exercise, brush your teeth, all of those type of things. But we also need to take care of your psyche equally the same. You know, you have to take care of your mental health. You need to learn what to filter in, what to filter out. You need to know when to shut down and reboot. You need to know when to protect yourself. Boundaries are one of the biggest things that I think young people need to learn about. So if we can find a way to change all of that, and changing the 3 things that I've spoken about, I'm not going to do it alone as a doctor. There's no way. You know, it needs society. It needs everyone to be part of it. So things like unemployment, inequality. I mean, young people are struggling to even get space in university. I know people that took a gap year not because they wanted to, because there was no space. That's horrible. Yeah. You know, so it's a lot of issues that, in my experience, I think have contributed to mental health in young people. Yeah.
And I mean, to you personally, what does your faith mean to you in this particular journey? I think Kati, we talk about faith and reason, but for you personally, on a personal, and I know that can be tough to bring that into one's profession. But for you, would you say that's an important component to an individual's life? Do you ever deal with people and think, oh, I kind of wish you had that side to it at least as well, that you had this loving God that you know about and that is a source of substantial consolation in your daily life?
When it comes, especially with psychiatry, I think it becomes very difficult to explain it to people, including faith in it, because you find people who are going to tell you that, look, I'm not sick, it's in my mind, and faith can heal it, type of thing. So, what I usually say to my patients and what I believe is that, I always say before you can teach or spread the word, you need to know God first. You can't speak about what you don't know. Knowing your God as my patient, you know his power. You know how he created the universe and how we are all kind of interlinked. One of the things that God has made is he's given some of his children the ability to go into specific fields. And when you are unwell, God has provided a platform for you to go so you can get well. So things like psychiatry, where there's mental illness, it's not physical, you can't touch it and say, like a broken bone, it's in the mind. There's a part that faith plays in trusting that God will help, but also allow God to help in the ways that God wants to help. And God has created a platform that helps in a specific way. Doctors, psychologists, occupational therapists, you list them. And where faith can play a role is it's a protective factor. It's knowing that there's someone I can lean on, there's someone I can cry on. You know what, God? I'm not okay. I'm taking these antidepressants, but it's taking a little bit of time. So it's more from a protective factor that faith can play a role, and also from a supportive factor where you have people who are praying for you. I mean, I believe in prayer, and as people, sometimes we expect God to answer the way that we want to receive the answer, and God answers the way he wants. I mean, he's God. So if he's answering with a packet of antidepressants, take the antidepressants, so that's what I usually say, that believe that God is going to make it work. And God is not going to come down and hold your mind and be like, hey, he's gonna bring resources in front of you, and I'm one of the resources right here, and all the other clinics. So that's how I kind of put it together.
Love that.
Talking about resources, as you said, I don't know if that's are you available to like public, and do you run your own private surgery, if I may say it, or how are you available to the young ones?
So in terms of practicing, not yet, because I'm still under vets. I'm still specializing under the university. I don't have a private practice, and you can't run a private practice while you're still in training to specialize.
Okay.
I'm available in the public sector, and not just me. There's a lot of my other colleagues. Like, for example, there's local clinics. Not every local clinic, although they all should, they have a mental health side. So if you're not feeling well, you just go there, let the nurses see you, then let them book you for a mental health care specialist, and then that's how, for now that I'm still training, that's where I am. But there's private psychiatrists that are available, the psychiatrists that are public as well. So me in particular, not yet, no. I'm in the clinics, in Barra and everywhere else.
Okay.
It's
I'm sorry
public,
for being invisible. Expertise are expensive. They come at a price. Obviously, we have like clinics and public facilities. So people who might not know, if you can give us like practical tools as young people who might be intimidated by the prices. So it's like, you guys are expensive. So where can I go? And yeah, so where to, especially in an environment where it's difficult for me to get out of in order to heal myself mentally. So what would be the advice be for that person, and what are the platforms for them to freely or affordably make use of AMA services when?
So we'll start with what you can do from home. And when I say this, I don't want people to misunderstand me and think when you're sitting at home you can cure depression. You're not going to. What you can do at home, just from, how you take care of your physical body? Let's just start there. The first thing is you need to take care of your mental health. You need to be very careful with what you put in and with what you put out, and what you allow in as well. So boundaries are very important. And it's okay. I think, the world is so fast paced and there's so much going on, and it's almost as if taking a break is illegal. It's okay to take a break. Shut down. If you have to shut down, shut down. I'm switching my phone off. Obviously tell your loved ones that you're not trying to kill yourself or anything. You just need a break. Shut down, recoup. Do things that are relaxing. Take yourself out. I know it's expensive. I'm not saying go to like fancy restaurants. Taking a walk. Simple things like taking a walk. You'll be so surprised what exercising can do. People exercise will tell you about endorphins and all of that. It's also very healthy for the mind. Have someone to talk to. Decide who your safe space is. And you as the safe spacer, please continue being a safe space. Don't make people feel uncomfortable coming to you. You don't want a situation where I want to come to you, but I know that by next week everybody will know my business type of thing. So be open to listening, be open to sharing, have a safe space. This whole I'm an island thing does not work. And one of my passions is actually men's mental health, and July was men's mental health. They are the population that we struggle a lot when it comes to opening up. They struggle a lot because men like shutting down, and if they can't fix the problem, there's no need to talk about it. So until I have a plan, I'm just gonna isolate type of thing. So avoid isolation. It's not a good thing. There's introverts, extroverts, we know that, but there's abnormal isolation. So take yourself out there, exercise, read, do things that you love, give yourself time to you, like fall in love with yourself, make time for you. We make time for everything else but ourselves. So that's the time to sit down one-on-one with your mental health, and just keep a healthy life. In terms of resources, our country is one of the countries where we are fortunate to have free healthcare services. It's hard, we're understaffed, it's a nightmare, different conversation. But there are platforms. Mental health is there. It's there at Barra, it's there at Helen Joseph, it's there at Simja, it's there, It's just a matter of going there and asking for the information. So the first step, I'll always advise people to go to the local clinic. Go there, tell them. Because when you go there, if you've got a flu, you tell them, I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, got a sore throat. Same thing, I'm not feeling well, I feel like I'm depressed. The nurses will know what to do. And then they'll book you into seeing. It may take 2 months, 3 months, again, different conversation, but the resources are there, although they could be better, honestly, but, the free healthcare system, and then if you have the money, you can always go to private for it, Or even before you get there, because sometimes people struggle with specialty fields, you can get your GP to refer you as well, so, yeah, just a referral to a psychiatric doctor would be helpful,
My opening line for my talk that I did on mental health was a quote from the film Joker, and I love how it deals with the gravity of mental health. The worst thing about having mental illness is people expect you to behave like you don't. So I think you did speak. I love how you said there's no such thing as being crazy, etc. So we did touch on stigma, but is there anything else that you can say to maybe console or just ensure our young people, make them feel better about the fact that you should and can deal with this, and that is, in fact, as you beautifully say, a form of loving yourself?
I would start with perception. It's all about perception. Already because of the stigma, and psychiatry is not, it's one of the studies that's actually poorly understood. Again, going back from my example that you don't have a physical organ to say this is painful, it's broken, it's a psyche. And because of that, it's poorly understood. So the best way I like explaining this is think about how you would take care of an ankle, a twisted ankle, and how it's okay to have a twisted ankle, right? Because it's part of the body, it can break. Same thing with psyche, it's part of the body, it can also be unwell. As much as you have diabetes, which is a chronic illness, you also have illnesses that actually affect the mind. And it's okay to have that. It doesn't mean you're any less than any other person. It just means you're sick. That's just what it means. Nothing more. It doesn't mean that you're crazy, you're not going to make it, you're horrible. It just means you're sick, like anybody else is sick. So it's okay to not be okay. And life has transformed. We're moving on, guys. I mean, back in the days, we wouldn't have a conversation like this about mental illness. If anything, there'd be a whole lot of issues around it. But now we have an open platform to talk about such things. So see it as a part of your body that's not well, that you would do anything for. If you break your arm, you're going to go to the doctor. If your mind and your psyche is unwell, you also have to go to the doctor. So that's how I usually put it, that think of it as a part of the body. And also the stigma. People will say negative things mostly because of the lack of understanding. And as much as we would like people to understand, we also need to be one of those people that actually understand. And it's hard to understand stigma. I'm not going to make it look like it's rosy. It's hard. But also kind of, at the back of your mind, understand these people know nothing about this, or they're not exposed to this. And shy away from also stigmatize, because there's stigma from people and there's stigma from yourself. So if you can try and break those barriers, it would make things much easier. And in terms of behavior, it's a very tricky one, because with mental illness, there's a lot of abnormal behavior that can be very risky. So you don't want to encourage someone to be like, if you're hearing voices that are saying you need to stab people, scream around and stab people, type of thing. So there's a very fine line in what you allow or give patients information about in terms of expressing themselves. Talking about depression, yes, but there's certain things. If it poses a risk to other people, then maybe speak to your therapist about it. So that's what I would advise, because otherwise people go around expressing what they're hearing in their minds, and then it's going to be a risk for everyone. So we don't want to heighten the risk here.
Okay, so I've adopted many patron saints now for every aspect of my life, but I'm fascinated to know who's your patron saint and your favorite prayer that you take with you when you do your job.
My favorite patron saint is Saint Jude, and it's extremely and highly influenced by my grandmother, because that's her patron saint. And that woman. When my grandmother prays for me, she's still alive. So lucky to still have her. She's still very much alive. She always does the Saint Jude novena. And when I tell you that it happens, it happens.
It happens.
So it really does happen. So I've taken it everywhere. That's one novena I'm very, very, very consistent with. So yeah, it would be Saint Jude. At some point it was Martha, again, like you said, depending on where my life is at the moment and what I'm facing. But mainly it would be Saint Jude, because I've just carried him everywhere.
Same.
So we have expressed ourselves in many ways, and also have made it clear for us, and you even gave us some practicality on what people should do. né? So at the end of our podcast, we always ask, what is the good news that you have to share to the young people out there, to the world?
With the good news, I'll just start by explaining what it means to me. And now in a Bible context, the good news is more of a personal, intimate, and divine conversation you have with God. Looking at the Bible, it's literally the only book I know that has answers to all the things that I've always wondered about or have faced. And God is constantly communicating. He's constantly communicating. And sometimes the barrier between us understanding God, the good news, is because we sometimes box God and want him to behave the way a human would. Even in terms of communication, you're expecting God to come down and have a conversation like this. I know I do that in my storms. I'm like, just come down and tell me. And God won't do that. He's not like that. You need to be open to, I don't think we could ever understand his magnitude, but you need to be open to the fact that he's more than what you think he is. And understanding that makes it easier to also share the good news with your loved ones and everyone out there. So with the young people is, you need to make time for God, guys. You need to make time for God. Allow him to teach you, allow him to show you, allow him to open your mind, because a lot of the things we struggle understanding because we are not exposed to those things, and we don't allow ourselves to be exposed to certain things. So with sharing the good news, the first thing is allow yourself to allow God in you, and know that God has a plan. He always does, and God provides. I can't stress this enough. God provides in whatever shape or form you want to think of it. He really does. One of the things that I would say that he provides is he's made resources and has given knowledge to his children to be able to help with certain concerns that his creation may have, in the form of doctors, in the form of therapists, in the form, all of it. He's made, opportunities available for us to have a protective system, looking at the police, all of these, the government. All of us have a purpose in the world, because if God felt like we didn't need each other and he didn't need this creation, he would have just chilled by himself wherever he is and not create people. And if he felt like you could live as an island, he would have just made you alone in your own world. So he brought us all together here for a purpose, and we should never forget that. And that we are all interlinked as a creation. And my final one is always that prayer works, guys. It does. You just have to have the faith. It's hard sometimes, but again, prayer, a very intimate and divine conversation with God, will take you a long way. So yeah.
So, friends, again, as we said, our theme is tireless. So let it remind us of our theme for this year of Walk in Hope. All of those who hope in the Lord will run and not grow weary. So walk in that hope. Thank you. God bless you. We'll catch you next time.